Good evening, everyone. This is episode 2 of Half the Story podcast. I am your host, Andrew. I'd like to welcome you. This is episode 2. Big step here. Episode 1 was a big step, big step. But episode 2 is another giant step for me. First, I want to say thank you to everyone who has subscribed to the YouTube channel, followed me on Instagram, liked any of my posts, shared my Facebook status, given me all compliments, encouragement, and support. I really appreciate that. I think, as crazy as it sounds, posting a video on the internet of yourself talking was terrifying to me, and I think that's what took so long for me to get a video out, for me to start a podcast, because anytime you care about something, I think you're worried about what people are going to think of you or how they're going to respond. And so far, so good. I mean, everyone's been awesome. It's been very encouraging. So really want to thank you guys for that. It means a lot, and continue to support me and while I go through these kinks and bumps. And I mean, I don't know what I'm doing yet, but I'm doing something, so I'm in the right direction, I think. That was the hardest part, is just getting started. So thank you guys so much. It means a lot to me. So I felt I had to get out another podcast this week. If not, I want to do another one after this too. So beautiful Monday night, and January 8th, episode 2. I got a lot to talk about. Won't take too long. So let's just get into it here. So, like I said on my first podcast, I got a lot of stuff that I'm interested in. First and foremost, I'm a student of Occupational Therapy. I'm in my last semester before my level 2, so I want to talk a little bit about OT. I want to introduce you guys to that. Today was my first day back for our last semester of classes, and so I want to kind of introduce you guys to Occupational Therapy. I also want to talk about documentary I watched on Netflix called Jim and Andy with Jim Carrey. That is a really good documentary, and I recommend it for anybody. And I just got a couple thoughts and things to talk about in regards to that, because it really made me think. I also want to talk about a little bit of the NFL playoffs this past weekend. I know I'm a couple days late. There's games on Saturday and Sunday. I'm sure you've heard about everything, but I just want to give my take. And last but not least, I just have a random fun thought that I think is kind of funny or witty, so I'm going to try and be funny and lighten the mood to end it there. So, first things first, like I said, I went back to school today. It was my first day back, spring semester. This semester's all geared towards adults, so we have an adult class, we have a modalities class, we have like a career readiness leadership class that gets us ready to enter the profession. And then we're also wrapping up our research in our group. So a lot happening this semester. I'm really excited for it, because adults is one of the populations I see myself working with the most. So I've been really excited for this class. And it's the culmination of all the schooling thus far in the program. And, you know, it's that last step before we enter the real world, So also on top of that, this semester we have Capitol Hill Day, I believe January 20-something, where we're going to go up to Des Moines and advocate for the profession. So that'll be fun. That was fun last year. It was really nerve-wracking talking to congressmen. I guess I don't remember what they were, but I only talked to one, but Jeff Danielson, he was awesome, and I look forward to that this year. Also, in April, there's the National Conference for Occupational Therapy in Salt Lake City, which I'll be attending, so that is exciting. Me and a lot of the classmates are going to be going to that. And on top of that, the next week, I believe, we'll be presenting our research as a group to the school. So, and community members. So that's all cool this semester. Kind of our last hurrah before we enter our level 2 fieldworks and get work for free for 6 months and figure out how to do OT. So with that being said, I know a lot of you probably know what occupational therapy is, but I know a lot of you probably don't have any idea. For one, it's not getting you a job. So if someone says occupational therapy, don't think job. I don't need a job. So, sorry, that was Walter. He's my co-host today. So I plucked this right from AOTA, American Occupational Therapy Association website. For all you people that aren't familiar with occupational therapy, OT is the only profession that helps people across the lifespan do things they want to and need to. They do that through the therapeutic use of daily activities or occupations. OT enables people of all ages to live life to the fullest by helping them promote health and prevent or live better with injury, illness, and disability. We focus our attention on the patient's ability to participate in those activities that they find meaningful. So typically it involves an evaluation of the patient to figure out their strengths and weaknesses. We use those strengths to we use those strengths and weaknesses to develop goals in order to get them back to where they want to be, which isn't always where they were, but we want to get them to their highest level functioning as possible. So we do that through a lot of goal setting and custom interventions. So the main things I kind of like about that is across the lifespan. So we're working with kids to 0 to 100. That's something very unique about our profession. And we really focus on the things that they want to do. So we don't force anything on them. We try and help them achieve their goals. If they want to get back to snowboarding, we're going to help them get back to snowboarding. If they want to be able to play cards, but they're blind, they really want to play cards on Friday night with their friends at the casino or whatever, and that's really what they want to do. That's what they look forward to. That we're going to help them get to that. It's kind of client driven and really goal oriented. So, and the last thing that really stuck out there is to promote health and prevent or live better with injury, illness, and disability. So that gives you an idea. We're going to use modifications, modalities, assistive tech to help people. They may not be able to regain full function or be able to do everything that they wanted to do at a certain time, but we're going to get them back to their best possible function. So, they might not get to 100%, but we're going to get them to 70%, and that's going to be allow them to do what they want to do. So I hope that little introduction on occupational therapy was helpful. Today in class we were talking about how you describe occupational therapy to people, and the big catchphrase we always use at school is it depends, because it really does. It depends who you're talking to, and we did an exercise today where we kind of played out how you would say it to a spouse, how you would say it to a person with back pain. It's going to be different for everyone because they're going to have different goals. So it's really hard to explain, and I hope I did it a little justice. And I want to keep advocating for occupational therapy, and leave some comments, tell me where I was wrong, tell me where I was right, say, hey, you left out blah 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 blah. I'm not perfect at all, but I just wanted to introduce you guys to OT because I'm going to be talking about it a lot. So and I'll come back to this a lot, because if we get new listeners here and there, they're going to want to know what occupational therapy is too. So that was on my first agenda. We'll talk more about it. Like I said, this is my first day back. Big semester here, this spring semester, and I'm really excited for it. So more to come, but I just wanted to get you guys, get your toe wet with occupational therapy and give you something to think about, and maybe, do some own research for yourself. Maybe, you have a loved one or a family member, and you could say, hey, they could really benefit from this. They're having trouble with X, Y, and Z. Andy, would occupational therapy be warranted for that person? So shoot me questions if you have them. If not, I just wanted to promote it because it's a big part of my life and I find it interesting. So that's OT. We'll come back to that later, another episode. So next, what I wanted to talk about was last night I had a little free time on my hands. It was the night before semester started, so nothing due, nothing really I needed to do. So I sat down and watched Jim and Andy, the Netflix documentary chronicling Jim Carrey playing, shoot, I can't remember his name now. Andy, it'll come to me at some point, but Andy Kaufman, he played Andy Kaufman in Man of the Moon, and it was really interesting. And there's a couple things he said on the documentary that I really wanted to, first I wanted to repeat, and second I wanted to elaborate on because it really made me think a little bit. I thought they were pretty powerful on what he said. And when you watch the movie, you're kind of like, man, he is crazy. He's a jerk. Because he literally stayed in character at all times. Like, you didn't know if it was Andy Kaufman. You didn't know if it was Jim Carrey. You didn't know if it was the other dude he was playing. And, like, people would talk to him as Jim Carrey, and he'd be like, who's Jim? My name's Andy. Who's Jim? Like, it was amazing. I've never seen anything like it. I'm sure it happens in other movies, but there's a new respect for him as an actor. And I've been kind of on a Jim Carrey kick lately. I watched both Pet Detectives, and they're brilliant. I've seen him before, but he's been kind of weird, and he lives a weird life, and he's fascinating. So I've been kind of on him. So finally got to watch the documentary, and it was really good. So one of the quotes he said on the movie was, at some point when you create yourself to make it, you're going to have to either let your creation go and take a chance on being loved or hated for who you really are, or you're going to have to kill who you really are and fall into your grave, grasping onto a character you never were. So read that one more time. I'm bad at reading. At some point when you create yourself to make it, you're going to have to either let that creation go and take a chance on being loved or hated for who you really are, or you're going to have to kill who you really are and fall into your grave, grasping onto a character you never were. Things that really caught my attention was you have to take a chance on being loved or hated for who you really are. And this really spoke to me because I always think about who I am and who I want to be, and I always try and be true to myself. And I think we all say we want to be true to ourselves, but I don't think we always are true to ourselves. And this podcast was kind of me taking a chance on being loved or hated in a silly way. So this documentary and this podcast came together kind of at a weird time in life. They just kind of mixed, and this really fell into that for me. So take a chance on being loved or hated for who you really are. And I think we often fall into, we want to be loved by everyone, but I don't think if you really want to be happy or you really want to be successful, that you can be somewhere else, because everyone, there's a spot for everyone in the world. There's a spot for me and all my quirkiness. There's a spot for every type of person. If you think about Michael Jackson, or you think about Prince, or you think about, anybody that's a personality that's weird, and that's them, everyone loves them because they know that's who they are. And I think that's one of the things that I often thought about was, man, all my heroes or all my favorite athletes were the people that were brash, and they said what they wanted to, and they thought what they wanted to, and they didn't give 2 cents about what anybody thought about them. And I really admired that. So like Nick and Nate Diaz, the fighters, they're very, very unique, but that's what everyone loves about them. If they were just regular cookie cutter people, no one would love them. No one, would know who they are. I think that a lot of people hate on people for being who they are when they should be inspired. Seeing people like that, saying what they want to say, being how they want to be, living how they want to be, that inspires me, because it makes me feel like it's all right to be myself and live how I want to live, And I think that should be the same for you. I don't think we should, I mean, obviously we all make fun of people or judge people at some point in our life. But I think if you take a step back and admire them, instead of judging them, you admire them for being who they truly are, you're going to have a greater outlook on people. And I found this out, with myself. I just, there's weird people, and, they're who they are. And you almost have to admire them, because it takes a lot of guts to be who you really want to be, and, for good or bad, I'm not saying everyone that is themselves is good. There's some creepy people out there, but just a little thought, admire those people that are themselves. And, if we didn't have those quirky people, we wouldn't have Michael Jackson, we wouldn't have Prince, we wouldn't have Chum Lee off Pawn Stars. If we didn't have those people, those personalities, our life would be boring. So let that inspire you to be yourself and put yourself out there a little bit more. The second quote I really liked about that, or from that documentary, Jim and Andy, was, "You can fail at what you don't love, so you might as well do what you love." And this hit me right in my podcast right here. So you can fail at what you don't love, so you might as well do what you love. I think that's so true. I know so many people that are unhappy in life. They're stuck at a job they don't like. They're stuck in a relationship. They're stuck. They're doing what they don't love. And kind of going back to being a unique person, there's a place for everyone in the world. And if you do what you love, you'll find your niche and your passion. And people who follow their passions and follow what they love, I believe they're happier, and, they can be successful. Because, for example, if I'm passionate about my podcast, I think I can take it as far as I want. Because if you have passion, you're already going to beat out those people that are doing it just for a paycheck. If you have passion, you're going to be working harder than all those people that just trying to get by, just trying to get to the weekend. So that passion and what you love, you might as well do it. So if you're thinking about, going back to school, if you're thinking about quitting your job, you're thinking about a different career choice, why stay at your certain career path? If you're not happy, you're not happy. How that story is going to end. If you stay at this factory, you're going to be there 30 years putting a bolt on a nut or whatever, and how that story ends up. So, man, all I can say is try and shake it up a little bit and find something you love and you're passionate about, and there'll be a place for you. Because passion, you can see it from a mile away. When you go in somewhere and someone's passionate, it's like positive attracts positive. So just be passionate and find something you love and go after it. Don't be afraid. So I'm not a life coach or anything crazy like that, but I thought that was my takeaways from the documentary. It's very good. Oh, last thing from it. I'm 27. I'm not super into movies, but I thought it was awesome how he wrote a check to himself even before he was famous for $10 million. He wrote a check, said $10 million for acting or whatever. He wrote a check to himself. He thought about it. He wrote it down. He made it a goal. I'm going to get paid $10 million. I'm going to have a $10 million check at one point in my life for acting, comedy, whatever. And lo and behold, however many years later, he had that $10 million check. So it's just crazy. Anything can happen. Like I said, if you're stuck at that job and you have a passion for drumming, give it a few years. Or if you have a passion for this or that, go after your passion, and you have your whole life ahead of you. If you're 30 or 35, you're still working another 30, 35 years. You're working until you're at least 65. So you might as well do what you love to do and what you're passionate about. So follow them dreams. Dream big. Alrighty, so that wraps up the Jim and Andy doc section. Great documentary on Netflix. Check it out. Let me know what you think. Drop a comment in there. Love to hear what you guys think. All right. So next I want to talk about a little NFL playoffs. I'm no Colin Cowherd or Skip Bayless, like some people would say, Bill. But I just wanted to talk about them and give my 2 cents on them. So first we have the Jags and the Bills. Anybody see that game? I didn't see much of it. I do know the Jags quarterback rushed for more yards than he passed. That's usually not a recipe for success unless you're Michael Vick. So Blake Bortles, he'll have to bring it in Pittsburgh. But Jacksonville already beat Pittsburgh earlier in the year. So we'll get to my picks in a minute here. So that's all I really got on the Jags game. Kansas City, epic collapse again. I think they've blown leads 2 of the last 3 years or something like that. And Marcus Mariota, quarterback for the Tennessee Titans, was balling. Let's just say he did everything. He threw a touchdown to himself. He was like, I don't need any teammates. I'm going to throw the ball and catch it and score a touchdown. It was one of the only touchdowns of the game. So he caught and he threw and he caught his own touchdown. He really put the team on his back. And late in the game on 3rd and 10, there's about 1:40 left in the game. If Kansas City would get a stop, they'd get the ball back with about 1:30 left, with a chance to go for a drive down and kick a field goal to win the game. And this dude, Marcus Mariota, he already threw a touchdown to himself. Remember that. He already threw a touchdown to himself. So the team's on his back already. They run the ball on 3rd and 10 with Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry bounces it out. Marcus Mariota, boom, lead block. Seals a lead block. Derrick Henry goes for a first down, 20-some yard gain. First down, game over. All Tennessee's going crazy. Marcus Mariota, lead block. Oh, my gosh. So if you think about it, Marcus Mariota threw a touchdown to himself, and he made the final block in the game to seal a win on the road. Comeback win. Dude, he has a lot of street cred now for me, at least. It might have only been one game, and it might ever happen again, but Marcus Mariota, street cred, way up, way up. So, props to him. Last 2 games this past weekend, Atlanta, LA Rams. Atlanta just had that championship swagger, that championship experience, and it showed against a young team. And the Rams, I was really hoping the Rams would make a run doing a fantasy postseason. I got Gurley on my team, but the Rams, they'll be back better than ever next year. So Atlanta's just got that championship swagger. I mean, they were up 28-3 in the Super Bowl. They should have been the champions theoretically. So we all counted them out pretty early. And the Saints beat the Carolina Panthers. Drew Brees had a really good game, and Cam Newton had a pretty good game too. But I think the whole country roots for the Saints no matter what. So they're kind of America's little stepbrother that everyone roots for. You can't hate the Saints, I feel like. So that being said, this coming weekend we got Tennessee at New England. Marcus Mariota street cred way, way up. Can he go into New England and do it again? Probably not. I'm going to take the Patriots in that game 26-10. So not much street cred transfers. Jacksonville at Pittsburgh. Ooh. I will take Pittsburgh 17-10. Another low scoring game. Antonio Brown comes back for injury. He's been out for about 3 weeks now. Since he was out the last 2 weeks, I actually won the fantasy league. My first ever year playing fantasy, I won it. I would like to thank Antonio Brown for being injured for those last 2 games. That really helped me out. So I'm going to take Pittsburgh, 17-10 over Jacksonville. I got Atlanta at Philly. I think Atlanta has the better quarterback. They got that championship swagger back a little bit. I'm going to take the upset. Atlanta 24-21 over Philly. And finally, Minnesota versus the Saints. I have to root for the Saints. I think they get it done in Minnesota. Drew Brees being that veteran quarterback with those 2 running backs, Kamara and Ingram. I think they find a way to beat Minnesota and Minnesota. Minnesota's got that shaky quarterback situation with Chase Keenum. So I'm going to pick the Saints. We'll just give them a nice good win of 28-18. I don't know how I got that, but so those are my picks. I don't know anything about it. Those are just my picks. So roast me if you want, but I like to talk a little football. Main thing I want to talk about is how much street cred Marcus Mariota got this past weekend, throwing a touchdown to himself and being the lead block on the ceiling game play. Quarterback, blocking, throwing, catching. So mad props to Mariota for that. All right, lastly today, this is my attempt at a little humor to finish the show with you. And so I work at Subway part-time, and I was working with a lady, and she was cutting tomatoes, and there was a rotten tomato in the box, and she picked up the rotten tomato and was like, "Look, it's a rotten tomato." And I said, "Okay, let me see that." So she hands me the rotten tomato, or sets it down. I look at it, and I said, "That would be really fun to throw at someone." A rotten tomato is almost like a fruit water balloon, but it'd be really fun to throw at someone because it would just blow up. And I got to thinking, people already do that. It's in our DNA. Like, throwing tomatoes at people is seriously in our DNA, because back in the day when there was people shackled like in Times Square or Center Square in those like head and wrist strap shackles, people throw fruit and vegetables at them, you know, people throw tomatoes. So I'm starting to think maybe that was like encoded somewhere deep in my genetics, that I just wanted to throw that tomato at someone. And I think I'm onto something with it. And another thing about tomatoes is they're kind of like second class citizens a little bit. Like, people always assume they're vegetables, but they're really fruits. Like, how would you like to be called a vegetable? Like, eat your vegetables. There's tomatoes in there. Eat your vegetables. You're supposed to eat your vegetables. And tomatoes are like, dude, we're fruits. Quit calling us vegetables. We're fruits. We want to be known as fruits. So, you know, that's all I really have to say about tomatoes. It just got me thinking, like, one, it's in our DNA to throw food at people. It's been like that for a long time. And two, quit calling tomatoes fruit or vegetables. Like, give them a little more respect. Throw some respect on that. So that's all I got. Episode 2 is a wrap. And I'm definitely want to get some more artwork for that white wall behind me. I got the picture of Walt, but I need some color. Hopefully I look better on this new camera. I got a few more mics so I can have my guests on. I've got this cam, and I actually, don't call me a handyman, but I built myself a tripod out of wood so I can get a good video of both me and the guest talking at the table. So that's coming. I put out the bat signal to help with a little bit of the editing, that kind of stuff. I've been obsessively trying to figure all that stuff out. So it's a work in progress, but I know I have passion about it, and I know I'll find a way to get it done. And even if it's this, I'll be okay with it, because, you know, it won't be like this for always. But, you know, I'm going to take this as far as I can, and I want you guys to hold me accountable and continue to support me if you want. So with that said, big thank you. Episode 2 is a wrap. Keep spreading the word. You can find me on Instagram, Half the Story Podcast, SoundCloud, YouTube, Half the Story Podcast. I'll get up a Twitter at some time, and I'll get on my Facebook page and make that as well. So keep sharing, keep supporting me, keep dropping comments. If you want to help out in any way, I need some artwork behind me. I put out the bat signal for a new logo. So I appreciate the support, and have a good night. I'm going to go watch some college football, guys. So take it easy. Episode 2 is done.